That's right, a turn 3 10-10, and I can do it consistently. Hello and welcome to the table, and I am back with the Swarm that strikes back. Yes, that was an Empire Strikes Back reference. Here, I got Darth Vader, my personal Darth Vader deck that I have been playing recently. This is the best version of Vader that I've played, simply because of one card, Clone Combat Squadron. This card is pretty powerful in this Vader deck. Yes, it kind of folds to a Fel the Dragon, but I would say a majority of, Fel the Dragon is not as popular as it was in the last meta, because everything is so much lower to the ground, and most of this deck is low to the ground, so most of the time, the opponent's not going to think a Fel the Dragon is going to be good against a Vader deck, and then you play something like a Clone Combat Squadron, a 4-resource 3/3 that gets +1/+1 for each other friendly unit you control, and all of a sudden they're staring down a 10-10, and they have no idea what to do. So, why is this the best version of Vader that I've played so far? First off, the Clone Combat Squadron, that improves the deck a lot, but I've also, the ratios of cards, I've changed them up a little bit so that it's just more consistent and better and gooder, because gooder is a word. But anyways, starting things off, Darth Vader, if you don't already know, is a command villainy leader that has an action to where you can exhaust him, and if you've attacked with a non-token vehicle unit this phase, you create a TIE Fighter token, which is a 1/1 token, and once you have 6 or more resources, you can flip Vader either into a 5/6 or deploy him as a 5/5 upgrade on one of your vehicles, and when you deploy that as an upgrade, the upgrade side of Vader, you create 2 TIE Fighter tokens, which is nuts. And I've done this in draft before, and I have not done it in paper yet. But the thing is, if you put a Darth Vader upgrade on the Clone Combat Squadron and it can stick, the amount of damage you are going to deal to your opponent is kind of absurd. So yeah. Then, obviously, Tarkintown is still the base for the deck, because this is one of the best bases in the entire game. ECL is a great base, but Tarkintown, in my opinion, is a very, very close second. It's a 25 health aggression base that has an epic action dealing 3 damage to a damaged non-leader unit. It's really good in combination with something like a Daring Raid that deals 2 damage to a unit or base. Something like a Force Choke to get rid of a really big non-vehicle unit, because Force Choke for 2 resources deals 5 damage to a non-vehicle unit. Then that unit's controller draws a card, sure, but you're dealing 5 damage. You can get rid of something with potentially 8 health in the ground arena if you use Force Choke in combination with the Tarkintown, which is absolutely insane. Plus, Force Choke can cost 1 less resource to play if you have another Force unit, which there aren't a ton in the deck. I'm sure you got Darth Maul, you got Darth Vader that you can play as units. I mean, Darth Maul is always going to be a unit. And sure, when you flip Darth Vader as a unit, that's also a Force unit, but even for 2 resources, Force Choke is absolutely insane. Then obviously there's Open Fire as a 2 of in the deck, like Force Choke. 3 resource event that just deals 4 damage to a unit. It's really solid. It's really good. It's just the damage mid-rangey kind of side of the deck. The reason that I have Force Chokes and Open Fires in the deck is just because I have Tarkintown in the deck. Plus, I have basically no ground units in this deck. At least that can actually compete against another ground arena, so you kind of need ways to deal with ground units in this deck. And Force Choke and Open Fire, especially in combination with something like a Tarkintown, can be pretty powerful. And Daring Raid is just an absolutely awesome card, so it's a 3 of, because it's just that good. In addition to, the ground arena not having the best tools, I do have 2 copies of Darth Maul in the deck still. I don't think it needs 3, because this card generally is not very good in the deck. It just allows you to, if you really need it, manage the ground arena against another opposing aggressive deck, just to give you a little bit of extra time and a little bit of extra room in order to actually beat them out. Whether it's another Quinlan Vought, or if it's a Quinlan Voss deck, a Sabine deck, Kazuda, something like that. But Darth Maul is a 5-resource 5/6 that can attack 2 units instead of 1, so it can attack a 3/3 unit in the ground arena and 5/5 unit in the ground arena and kill both. Sure, Darth Maul will die, but essentially for 5 resources to get rid of potentially 2 units is incredibly powerful, and not something that this deck can really find anywhere else. But the rest of the deck is go uber wide with vehicles and buff them to the frickin' moon and just do stupid things with them. Starting off this kind of list of vehicles, I'm just going to go over all the vehicles in the deck that are just going to be going as wide as possible, dealing as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible. The first one being First Order TIE Fighter, a 1-resource space unit. It's a 2/1 that while you control another token unit, it gains raid 1. Initially, I did not think this card was very good. It's like, oh, it's just a slightly better TIE Fighter. But for 1 resource, you can actually play this in combination with a ton of other cards in the deck to get a lot of value on the very first turn of the game. You can play this in combination with a card that I'll talk about later to potentially get like upwards of maybe 5+ units down on the second turn, which is insane to me. But I'll get to that later. And then I got TIE Fighter, also as a 3 of in the deck, just a 1-resource 2/1. Doesn't do anything extra special like TIE Fighter, which can basically, the First Order TIE Fighter, that can basically be a Death Star Stormtrooper in space. But they're both solid 1-drop space units. But then getting into the 2-drop space units, I got Kijimi Patrollers, a 2-resource 1/1 that when played creates a TIE Fighter token. Simple as that. It's a 2-resource, 2 bodies. That's all you really need to care about. And it's especially good if you know you can buff all your space units by additional power and health, which this deck only has a couple of ways to do that. But anyways, then there's Kylo's TIE Silencer, a 2-resource 3/2. That's essentially all the deck does because the rest of what the card does is not that important. Sometimes it can be useful, but whatever. Essentially, this is just another Mercenary Gunship, which is also in the deck as a 2 of. Except it can't be taken control of by another opposing unit. It sucks that Kylo's TIE Silencer is one of the very, very few 2-resource 3/2 space units in the game, for villainy at least, and I get that it's an expensive card, Kylo's TIE Silencer. Pretty much the rest of the deck is incredibly cheap beyond the Kylo's TIE Silencer, so if you really don't want to spend, like, stupid amounts of money on the Kylo's TIE Silencer, you can get like an extra 3 copies of the Mercenary Gunship in your deck and make sure that it's okay with whoever you're playing against, of course. As long as you're not in a competitive tournament, then unfortunately, then you're gonna wanna go down a little bit of money on the Kylo's TIE Silencers. But Mercenary Gunship, I mean, just getting 3 more copies of that in your deck, as long as your opponent's okay with it, I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal. Most people would probably be fine with that. I'm playing Kylo Ren deck right now. The Kylo Ren deck that I just showed off recently on the channel. I thought I had 3 Mr. Bones. I don't. And I have 2 copies of a card that's essentially the same thing, but it's not Mr. Bones. Or it's got like the same stat line body or whatever. But my opponents have been fine with it, so I would assume it'd be very similar for this, because the Kylo's TIE Silencer, all it is in this deck is a 2-resource 3/2. But then, getting beyond that, I got good old Droid Missile Platform, something that I really, really have enjoyed. This is one of my favorite space units that has come out of Jump to Lightspeed. It's a 3-resource 4/2, which is a really aggressive body, and I would say an on-rate 3-resource space unit would be a 3/4 or 4/3. And while this is a little bit below rate, it does have a pretty decent when defeated of dealing 3 indirect damage to a player, which can do a lot of work. It can either deal extra damage to the opposing player's base or deal damage to units that the opponent controls, which this deck is perfectly fine doing, because if it's getting damage onto your on your opponent's space units, then it makes it that much easier for you to get rid of them so that they don't get rid of your important space units. Or it's going to a ground unit that you can then use something like a Tarkintown on and then make it that much easier for you to win the game and not have to worry about the ground arena. Either way, Droid Missile Platform, that when defeated does a lot more work than you would think, and I really, really do enjoy it. But then there's Vonreg's TIE Interceptor, a 3-resource 3/4, on-rate body. The only reason that this is in the deck is because when you deploy a Darth Vader upgrade on this card, it can get Overwhelm and Raid 1 because it's going to have 6 or more power. If it has 4 or more power, it gets Overwhelm. If it has 6 or more, it gets Raid 1. Which is really, not that great because this deck, it has ways to get it up to 6 power. Because the whole fact that it can be a 3-resource 3/4 Overwhelm isn't that insane. It's, not that special or anything. You really want to get it to 6 power so it can be, really something spicy. And there aren't a lot of ways to do that in this deck. There are some, but it takes a lot of work to do. But Darth Vader, the flip, the upgrade side, it's just so easy to just, boom, it's a 5/5 buff. And now all of a sudden, it's an 8/9 with Overwhelm and Raid 1, so that's just, that's the reason that this card's in the deck, essentially, is what I'm trying to say here. And I've already talked about Clone Combat Squadron, which is all around just an absolutely insane card, but let's get into the combo, because now I'm going to talk about all the ways that I have to buff my space units. One of the most important ones, maybe the most important one for the combo that I'm about to talk about, is Wingman Victor 2, a 2-resource 3/2 ground unit, or you can pilot it for 1 resource to give a 1/1 buff to a vehicle unit that you have, and when you deploy it as an upgrade, or when you play it as an upgrade, the Wingman Victor 2, you create a TIE Fighter token. So what you can essentially do is on turn 1 play something like a First Order TIE Fighter, or a TIE LN Fighter, just something like that. Then you can play a Wingman Victor 2 as an upgrade on one of those 1-resource space units. Get yourself a TIE Fighter token, which is really nice for you because, all of a sudden you got 2 bodies on the first turn, one of which is a 3/2, maybe even a 3/2 with Raid 1, and you got another 1/1 lying about. Then on the next turn, you can play something like a Kijimi Patrollers, get 2 more bodies, attack with your space unit, your non-token space unit that you played last turn. You make another TIE Fighter thanks to Vader. Maybe you play another Wingman Victor 2 as an upgrade on the Kijimi Patrollers, get some more bodies out, and all of a sudden the next turn you're playing a Clone Combat Squadron, and it's something like a 7/7, 8/8, best case scenario if you have 2 Wingman Victor 2s and you play a Kijimi Patrollers and a Wingman Victor 2 as a pilot on your second turn. Then Clone Combat Squadron can be a 10/10 for 4 resources on the third turn of the game, which is absolutely insane to me. All because of Wingman Victor 2, because this card is just nuts in the deck. Absolutely love it. Especially in combination with the next 2 cards that I'm going to talk about, which is Captain Tarkin and Victor Leader. Captain Tarkin is a 3-resource 2/5 ground unit that's, not that bad. A 3-resource 3/5 ground unit, that's a pretty solid statted body. But it has 1 less power than normal, which sucks because, having good ground units can be very helpful to you, and this can be helpful in the early game, but the main thing that's appealing is that each friendly vehicle unit gets +1 power and Overwhelm when Tarkin is on the board, which is pretty powerful when you're making a ton of little 1/1s that all of a sudden can be 2/1s, or if you play something like a Victor Leader, a 3-resource 2/4 space unit that gives each other friendly space unit +1/+1, all of a sudden they can be 3/2s that are tokens that start off as 1/1s. You see where I'm going with this? It goes super big, super quick, and you're swarming, so it gets even bigger, even quicker, and it's great for you all around. But then there's Wingman Victor 3 as another pilot in the deck that's really, really solid. Not as solid as Wingman Victor 2, but still pretty good. It's a 3-resource 4/3, and you can pilot it for 1 to give a 1/1 buff to one of your vehicles. And then when you play it as an upgrade, you give an experience token to another unit. Really good. If it could be to a unit, it would be a lot better, because then that would be a really good card to play in combination with one of the 1-drop space units on the first turn, because all of a sudden you could be coming in with a 4/3 on the next turn. But unfortunately, that's not the case. You are still fine and happy if you play a TIE LN fighter or a First Order TIE fighter on the first turn and then pilot it with a Wingman Victor 3. It's just you wouldn't prefer it because you don't get the value off of the experience token. But then I got Clone Commander Cody, the last anthem of the deck. It's a 5-resource 4/4 Overwhelm. It's also a 3 of, like all the other anthems in the deck. And it says, as so long as you have 3 or more other units, or 3 or more units, because coordinate. Each other friendly unit gets +1/+1 and overwhelm, which is absurd. If you have Tarkin, Victor Leader, and Cody out, all of your vehicle units, your space units, whatever, are gonna get +3/+2. So your little 1/1 TIE Fighter tokens that you can make every turn with Vader are gonna be 4/3s, which is nuts. Even if you have 2 of these out, something like a Tarkin and a Victor Leader, that is still so good for you, because then all your stuff, all your little 1/1 tokens are all of a sudden 3/2s. And I mean, the damage can add up so quick with this deck, especially in combination with something like a Clone Combat Squadron. That just, it can do so much damage. It's not even funny. But there was one more card that I gotta talk about, and that is, of course, Darth Vader. A 6 resource 7/7 ground unit, which is really good for you. That's a really big body, really big boy. Or you can pilot it for 3 to give a 3/3 buff to a vehicle. And this is the main appeal, obviously. But this, you can pilot onto a Vonreg TIE Interceptor, by the way, get it up to 6 power, give it overwhelm, give it raid 1, that's pretty good for you. But it pilots for 3, gives a 3/3 buff, and this on attack of getting to deal 1 damage to a unit. And then, if that unit is defeated this way, you may deal 1 damage to a unit or a base, which is really good for you, because it can allow you to slowly shred down on some stuff, some opposing space units, maybe a ground unit, deal a damage to it, and then, who knows, maybe use a Tarkintown on it. Darth Vader, the pilot Darth Vader, can just be so good for you to help you to manage the ground arena, just allowing you to get rid of, early on, one of the opponent's more important ground units, and then just Tarkintown it away, can be so devastating for your opponent, and the thing that allows you to just win the game. Because you got rid of their important ground unit, you got to go fast enough with your space swarm, and then you just win from there. So, Darth Vader, I mean, obviously, Tarkin, Victor Leader, Clone Commander Cody, they're all great, but Darth Vader is probably my favorite, because, I mean, it's Darth Vader. Who doesn't love Darth Vader? I mean, the deck is Darth Vader, and then the pilot Darth Vader is also really cool. I don't know. With all that aside, hope that you enjoyed this video. Hope you cannot wait to play this new version, my personal favorite and I think best version of Darth Vader's Space Swarm. With all that aside, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's completely free, you won't regret it. And have a great rest of your day, everybody.